Hello fellow humans, I want to have a look at 3 tanks that are of very big interest if you're looking to buy things in the shop. One of them is the T-77, the other one is the T-4A2, and then the third one is the Chieftain Mark 6, which has been added very recently to the shop. For 20,000 gold, this is an excellent deal right here, but more on that later. T-4A2 and the T-77 are both pretty great tanks, but they do have one significant difference. One of them is an autoloader and the other one is not. Other than that, the DPM and the penetration are very similar. So there is the shell velocity as well, the accuracy and the aim time, and even the movement dispersion and the gun depression is very similar as well. So the main difference really is that autoloader, because in terms of mobility, the T-77 is slightly faster, and then in terms of armor, the T-4A2 has a slight advantage there. Now, what makes a tank truly good? Is it being able to excel at one thing? That can certainly be if you have something that is extremely excellent, like for example the Smasher's insane gun. But given that Blitz now, in terms of the teams that you get, is a complete another hellscape, you would want to have a tank that is as adaptable to any situation as possible, so that you can play as many variables as possible. So when you have a really bad team that positions horribly, you can still make use of whatever place you're in. So the more versatile a vehicle is, the more overall useful it tends to be. Now, obviously, you have certain specialist vehicles that are good at one thing, but if you happen to not be able to do that one thing, it's gonna crumble. So I, for myself, prefer vehicles that have a very wide operating range, or things like a Leopard that can just destroy anything by raw and utter skill. So I do find vehicles like this extremely amazing. Now, you have other things like a Type 57 that can also be a good option for a top-level to-rate premium tank. However, I do still think that the T-4A2 is the one go-to to-rate premium tank to have, because it has a bit of everything. It's got the armor, it's got the mobility, it's got the gun depression, it's got the accuracy, it's got the penetration, it's got all of it. So there is no realistic downside about this vehicle. The only downside really is that it's not absolutely amazing at anything. Well, it is a gun depression because 10 degrees is the maximum you're going to get out of in high-tier vehicles. So there's that. Also, overall, you should know how to aim. So the thing is with this tank, it's just a very versatile. It can do everything, which I rate very highly, and that also plays into the fact that if you don't really know what you want in a premium tank, if you're looking for something, then this might really help you as well, because you have a tank that can do whatever role you want it to, and then you can spot, wait, I'm playing it like this, I'm playing it always this way. So then you can adapt afterwards. For example, if you play the tank, you should always play it in gun depression spots. Obviously, you should never put this vehicle in a flat city. Any tank with good turret armor and good gun depression does not belong in a city. So that is flat. So then, but if you play there, you can be like, you can adapt to something different. One of those adaptations can be the T-77, which is the same tank but with an autoloader. But like, not really, but still. It's still got a similar-ish level of armor. The T-4 has a lot more turret armor. The hull's very similar of both of them, so just keep it wiggling. You can get penned in the lower plate in any vehicle. I don't think that's news to you. The upper plate's pretty strong, the sides are weak because it's American. So, yeah, keep this thing out of the enemy's sight. Only peek if you're reloaded. You got 2 shells, your DPM's not amazing. It's the same with the T-4, but this thing you have to be a bit more careful. You have to play a bit more laid back with this vehicle than you can play in the T-4A2. Now, is this OP? Of course it's not. It's good, yes, but it's not OP. So, let's just skip this because I'm just going to sit here for half an hour. So, it's good, right? And I can recommend both of these, but the T-77 requires more skill to make it work, right? I would start with the T-4. If you're an extremely new player, then I don't know if both of them are really that amazing choice. The T-4A2 kind of is, but then again, it should never be your first to rate. A premium tank should never be your first to rate. If you've already played, let's say, a T-34 or a Tiger II or something like that, then this is an excellent way to then add credit grinding capabilities to your account. 17.5k is very, very expensive, yes, there's no doubt about that. It is a lot of money. But I do believe that that is a bundle that you can get the most of for your money, rather than, like, let's say, buying crates or anything like that. But then again, this does not apply to everyone. Like, if you enjoy tank destroyers, and you only want to play tank destroyers, and there's obviously no point listening to me telling me to buy a heavy tank. So that's something that you obviously have to be aware of yourself, what you want to have, what you want for yourself. Or if you only want medium tanks and you got a Chimera or a Defender Mark 1 and you don't get a heavy like this. But in terms of general purpose, good performance premium tanks, this is one of the best bundles that has ever existed. It would be better if it's 15k at least, but you can't expect wargaming to be reasonable with pricing. So this is where we are. Anyway, now this vehicle is good. It requires an autoloader. Now at this point, I can see the Borask coming up. I know there's a Scorpion camping, so I'll tell the Scorpion, hello, help me. The Scorpion gets a shot into the Borask. I shoot into the Borask. And now the Borask is patient. He just sends it. Don't do that. That's what you want to be patient with an autoloader, right? You don't want to just rush it. Because with an autoloader, you always need a backup plan. Because the backup plan is always going to be useful if you don't have a shell right now. If you're reloading for 20 seconds, you always need a backup plan. So this thing is definitely harder to play than the T-4A2. However, if you're an intermediate or advanced player, then this is a pretty nice bundle to pick up, and I can highly recommend it in that regard. Now, if you don't want tier 8 though, and you're looking for something with a bit more oomph, then let's go. It's time. It's Chieftain time. So here we go with this vehicle that only really has two downsides, and one of them is the tiny cupola on top that you can get around if you keep it wiggling back and forth if you hold down, and the second one is the IS-7 level garbage premium penetration of the APCR rounds that this vehicle does have only 310, and because it's APCR there is no point in using calibrated because you only get 5%, whereas if it were heat you would get 10%, so it would be a lot more effective there, and the DPM is incredibly high, so I would use that. I would boost that. Now, there is an argument to be made to use calibrated because it does have hash rounds, which do benefit quite a bit from calibrated. But you're not going to use it that often. I'd rather have the bit higher DPM because the amount of times the calibrated actually helps you with the penetration of the hash, it's very, very limited. But the DPM helps you pretty much on every shot. So now, I have no idea what the hell our medium tanks are doing, but they're not mediuming very well. Luckily, the enemy Leo isn't doing that well either now. There's only one guy, which is, here's the thing. We have two mediums, they only got one guy, so if they would have just instantly go fight the Leo, that guy would be gone, it'd be 6v7 instantly. The problem is they didn't do that, which means now I have to do it. But the thing is, this thing is a main battle tank. This is not a heavy tank, this is a main battle tank. It can do anything. Now, in real life, it couldn't drive because the engine it had was absolute garbage, but in Blitz it can pretty much do anything. It's the E50M of heavy tanks, but it can't ram. That's the one downside, but it changes the ramming for having hash rounds. So let's see what we can do. Obviously the FV4005 is now the primary target because while that thing is dangerous when it's loaded, it's like a kitten when it's unloaded because it's absolutely helpless. So now we're gonna, Badger's gonna turn. I'm not gonna fight that. Obviously that's one thing that you should always learn to do in Blitz, that is target selection. Do you fight the enemy? Do you not fight the enemy? You gotta know when to fight and how to fight, because just throwing yourself at the enemy is rarely a good idea. Now, got an E5 up there. He's not gonna be, I'm gonna hit him there, but obviously I can't go over there because of the Badger. He's just sitting there, so I'm not gonna try to bother with that, and instead deal with this E5 in a very creative manner, trying to shoot below the 50B there. Now he's still looking at me. Look at him. Look at him. Still looking at me. Obviously not gonna peek him, but I'm gonna peek him because I got a bush. So there we go, and he screws it. I still got almost better reload than me, but I'm gonna stay peeked here because it doesn't really matter. This thing is just lovely. It can do anything, it can fight anywhere, anything, at any time. But then you still have to know how to apply this vehicle correctly, because if you don't, then you are gonna struggle. And especially if you're a newer player, a more novice player, then the Super Conqueror is gonna be the better option. However, obviously be aware that you should never ever buy a tier 10 if you don't at least have 2-3 tech tree tier 10s already. So this thing is excellent if you know how to make use of it. I can highly, highly recommend it. It makes great credits as well. If we have a look at that right now, 100k credits for a 3k battle, which is not really that great of a result for 3k, but still almost 50k gained, which is not too bad, and it is very fun as well.